Hey, everybody out there. We are talking with Greg Moquin, and we are just kind of hanging out, talking comics, doing some lettering stuff for Annabelle issue 3. Greg's got a Kickstarter coming up, and we'll slide over and let him kind of talk about this Kickstarter. And here is the page. We got the link up in chat, and I'll post that in the description here. And once we finish the stream and all that, we'll get that going as well. But yeah, take it away, Greg.
Yeah, Scales. I changed the subtitle and stuff because Alex from Lucky 33 Comics, he kind of helped me change that because I knew it was weird, but he's like, I'll just like switch the things around. And the original subtitle was like something that was on the original cover from years ago because we put Scales out like back in 2019 or 2020, but it didn't ever have a Kickstarter. So yeah, if you like supernatural superhero origin stories, then you'll like Scales.
So is this something you just came up with, just ideas as a writer? I mean, you're a writer. I'm kind of like multiple things. I do writing and artwork, obviously, and all that stuff. But are these just like random ideas that you have and you're just like, let's make comics, right?
Yeah. So back in 2014 is when I like started writing the main flagship thing, the Seer Chronicles, and that was over 1,200 pages after I like finished writing all that, and then I broke it up into multiple different comic series, and this is one of them because it was way too long of a story, and I'm like, oh, I got to tell this in parts, so.
Yeah. How long was it? Did you have to pare it down to like 22 pages? I know like, one shots can range in pages. You wanted to break it up into individual issues and not kind of release it maybe as like a trade?
So the regular story, which wasn't a comic book script format, it was just like a novel kind of. That was like over 1,200 something pages.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it took like 3 years to do. And then, but I didn't sleep when I was writing it because I was like just so excited to keep writing it.
As we typically are, right?
Yeah. So then I broke it up once I met Dylan. We kind of figured, like, we researched how to make like a comic script, which there's not really a wrong way to do it. Even though when I did stuff on Fiverr, there was one person that's like, that's not how you write a comic script. I was like,
what?
Okay.
I'm writing it the way I want, right?
You can tell that to other people that hired me and paid me, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this idea came from, I had a plot and then I just gave it to David Flesher. He's a writer as well. And I later on paid him for issue 1 like a while ago. But yeah. So he actually wrote the story. I was like the story creator for it. Because I had like pieces of like what I wanted this to be.
Okay.
And then he just ran with it. The second issue was like, it's more just him training. And when we had a podcast episode for our podcast, we had Ed Jowett on, and he was talking about origin stories and how like people don't care about origin stories. It's really funny.
Really, I love them. That's one thing, I absolutely love them.
Yeah. So he was like Batman. You originally didn't care or even know about like parents dying in an alley. So Batman. So I was like, oh wow, yeah. So after that podcast, we kind of like skipped ahead for a bunch of our comics. So for Ink 2, we skipped 3 years, so we don't show the training. And
I remember that. That's a great story too, by the way. That's fun.
Yeah. So we skip ahead, and then we're gonna show like the training and like how he got his tattoos and powers and stuff later on, like his flashbacks and whatever. I can't wait to show that because it's a more fun way to show instead of just like this is him training and it's just a montage, like a Rocky montage.
Yeah.
So I was originally going to do that with Scales too, and then I was like, "No, we're going to skip ahead." So for issue 2, which is already written,
Okay.
and I think 3 is or plotline. We skipped 20 years. So yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So the
Okay.
story takes place in 2024.
Okay.
Yep.
No, that sounds fun. And that's this thing. You're right with the whole Batman thing because it's like they just started out with him as Batman, and I'd say even with like characters I make, being kind of a creative person, I start out Ice Pick as just him doing something, right? I don't start from step one or block one, right? And to me, I feel like it's almost the it's kind of thing about how George Lucas was with Star Wars. He's episodes 4, 5, and 6 were just a little bit better, right? They had a little bit more action. They were just that's why he chose to release those first. And for me, it's like I love going back, and I think I will eventually tell. I mean, I've hinted at like the origin of some of the characters in my universe, but I've never really told those stories. But I was always a fan of issue 0. Like I would look forward to like that issue 0 of that character because I knew that's what it was for. So I might go back and do that once I kind of flesh out all the rest of the stories. But yeah, I mean, look, anyone out there, go follow Scales here. It's looking good. It sounds fun. Looking forward to that. And when are you releasing it?
It like launching or
yeah.
Monday.
Sorry.
So tomorrow night.
Well, there you go.
5 p.m.
All right. Well,
I asked Dylan when he can do a live stream. So
okay, so you guys will have a live stream tomorrow for that then?
Yeah, we're gonna do that, and then whoever wants to come on that too, because they don't want to just see me talking for.
Yeah, you get these talking heads. I get it, but it's fun. It's kind of new for me too. This is obviously my first live stream. I plan to do more, but I like the format. It's you get to know kind of on a more personal level our virtual friends out there in the internet land, I guess, social media and stuff. And, you get to talk to them, you get to hear about their projects and their passion. And I'm really passionate about stuff I do. I mean, you can hear the passion you guys, whenever you guys put out stuff, and the platform's a really great platform. I mean, even in general, like just the Sear Nova Comics platform, what it offers is kind of revolutionary, I think, in a way. And I definitely wish all the success on that. It's people got to go check it out because it's something different. But yeah, Scales tomorrow, 5:00. If I'm definitely around, I'll try to hit up and join that live stream. And then you said you got issue 2 going, written. And what's the process for you guys as far as like writing versus like launching Kickstarters? You kind of want to make sure the book is mostly done before you launch that Kickstarter, or you just kind of like,
I had like a bad experience, like probably everybody has, that we had Sear Chronicles 2 almost done, or kind of almost done. Issue 1, like the remastered version, was nowhere even started.
Oh wow.
Because the artist I was doing 2, he was really busy with other people's projects. I didn't pay for issue 1, but I paid the rest to get 2 done. And then like, okay, well, are you going to do 1? And then that fell through. So then I had to find somebody else to do it. And then Luke from the platform, Anderson, he helped and he remastered it. And I was like, well, at least that's finally done. But it took like a year or almost 2 years to like kind of have people get it. So because of that, I like to have stuff like 80 to 100% done. This is done. Besides, Jerome is relettering a couple things because we like learned from mistakes over the past. And the dialogue is there's just way too much dialogue, and how the panels are laid out. He's just a really good letterer, and he even shortened some of the stuff because when me and Dylan were like looking at the script, I'm like, oh, you already shortened that. Okay, so that's good. The second issue I wrote,
All
so
right.
because
Nice.
the second issue that David wrote was just him training, and I was like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna just use that stuff like later on.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's using resources you have, and if it works to tomorrow's issue, then that's great. If it's 5 issues down the road,
Yeah.
it works too.
And yeah, so I like to have like 80 to 100% done. I'm the one that writes the scripts. Dylan
Hmm.
edits most of them, but Hector edited the second issue of Scales because Dylan's like, "Did I even see that?" And I was like, "No, because like you don't have time to do things." So
Yeah,
I had someone else do it. um,
nice.
and then he's like, "Well, can you like tell me what the story's about?" And I was like, "It's been like a couple months, so I'll have to like look at it."
Yeah.
But there's like really like action is like right in the beginning of it. A little bit of action, and then like there's new characters that enter the scene,
Hmm.
and yeah, I just think it's really fun. It's like our Daredevil meets Batman character, so
It's
slash
interesting.
Iron
Yeah,
Fist. So
Daredevil, Batman, Iron Fist. That's sweet.
yeah,
It's interesting when you talk about comparisons because I mean, obviously we're in a social media world right now. I mean, that's where a lot of us creators and especially indie publishers, that's where we find our fan base. Having more followers on these Kickstarters is important. We all know how just. I mean, I don't want to blame algorithms, but we know how that plays a factor. I guess to say like having 50 followers versus 500 followers. I mean, there's a huge difference in how Kickstarter is going to kind of promote that or do their thing. But it's living in this virtual world, you have multiple artists and people working on different books and writing things. And I was able to talk so for Annabelle, this current story I'm running with Kickstarter coming up March 15th, all the people working on the book are in South America. So it's nice to have this again social media, but you have this global ability to like communicate with people globally, And
yeah,
I'm actually going to be able to get my artist Sergio from Annabelle on the live stream. I think he's in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. So like time zone difference and like I think all of us indie creators. I mean, this is not our full time gig, so he's if I'm not mistaken, he's like a designer, kind of animator, something down there. But yeah, I mean, definitely go sign up here. I put the Kickstarter link in the comments on the Facebook stream, so people will have it there. And speaking of lettering, and you're talking about having your guy kind of re-letter some stuff as a writer, and we'll get into kind of like my process here in a little bit. Lettering page 1 of Annabelle issue 3. I will typically write an outline, and it'll be like, I mean, the structure that I like to do is 4-issue miniseries. For me, I think that's a nice, I don't know, tight package for fans where they can like, hey, here's 4 issues. It's a complete story. We're good, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think after I'm done with the next 4-issue series, so Annabelle will obviously do 4 issues, and then I have the next book. I have issue 1 written. It's called Luke, and he's the next third main character, and everything's kind of like in threes. Ice Pick was 4 issues. That's the main first character, Annabelle, and then Luke. And his is going to be all horror story, which is a lot of fun. Fairies and vampires, and just it's madness. It's the first issue is just insane. At least from my point of view, I think it's like pretty crazy. A lot of blood and guts and some horror aspects. But as a writer, I will do these 4-issue outlines, and I'm just like, hey, here's issue 1, here's what's going on, right? Here's issue 2, here's what's going on, and from there, it's kind of like I will, when I start writing a script, I'll try to decide like, is this too much dialogue for issue 1, and is it how does it work, right? Does it fit within the panels? And working with the artist, I'm pretty loose as far as an editor goes. I don't like really harp on him to, okay, you got to match 5 panels, right?
Yeah.
As a writer, you see an artist and you're like, I wrote 5 panels, that better be 5 panels. And it's like, it could be 4, it could be 6, as long as you're telling that story visually. And what I like about Sergio's art is not only when he did a test page for Annabelle, I mean, he nailed it, like just 100% nailed the character, nailed Ice Pick. All the characters are just so on point, and he's got that 90s flair, which I like, but it's still kind of a modern update to the 90s flair. But I will go back and I will shorten some things when you talk about he'll shorten up some script ideas, whatever was in the script. I do the same. Like so we'll kind of transition here and into getting to lettering, but this is kind of my process for lettering. And I have my script here. I kind of minimize this a little bit. Typically I have it much larger and I can see multiple pages, but we're just going to kind of bang out this first page, not super wordy. And I do this intentionally when I'm writing scripts. And I know a lot of fans out there love to hear about like our process as creators, or what tools are you using? What's that pen or that marker, or what program are you using? What are the technical aspects of some of the things that you do? And I'm a fan of that as well. But doing this for so long, I've kind of fell into my routine. I'm sure you do as well. Like when you're writing a script, you're kind of in that zone. You know what program you're using. You're just typing and going along. Is that kind of, you're just setting your ways by now?
Yeah, I just go in Google Docs and write another doc. And I write an outline first. Like, so I start to title like the series, and I was like, oh wait, now I gotta do an outline. And then I start writing ideas and like bullet points, and then I take those bullet points and I kind of like outline it into 4 main sections of like how the story's gonna go. And then I take that outline and then I use parts of it because then I start writing the actual script and I'm like, oh yeah, that's in the outline. I gotta go back through it. But
and this is exactly what we're talking about, like outline. I call it overview, but same thing, like chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's all the information. Sometimes I'll have editor notes. Do you do anything like editor notes when you're kind of writing, as far as like, don't forget this, or kind of make that?
The only thing I do is if I want to like remember something or think of like a cool idea, is I just put a comment on something. I'd be like, this has to do this. We are super into world building, so and Dylan is like obsessed with using this thing that we pay for that's very cheap. It's Floor Plan Creator, and we actually make floor plans of like certain buildings. Like for ink, we made the tattoo shop. Wow. And we took the tattoo shop of like where my tattoo artist actually is in like Boston Spa, and took the exact same thing. And I went by like memory of like where everything is in his shop. And I'm like, okay, this is how you go in. Like this is the front, this is the back. This is where the bathroom is and all this. He built that Floor Plan Creator. I'm like, you don't need all. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah, and then Adam's like, this is better if it's like a video game. You don't need all this. And I was like, yeah. Like, he's like, you see this stuff for like 3 seconds, and then you're on the next scene. I was like, yeah, I know. Yeah. So like Dylan was kind of really strict on certain things like that, and then I'm like, you have to like stop doing that because we will lose an artist if you're like this strict on certain things. So
it's a fine line. It really is. Kind of wearing multiple hats, writer, editor. For Ice Pick, I was the artist, inker, those types of things. Like and this is a prime example when we talk about being strict with our creations. I know they're very dear to our heart and they matter to us, and we want to make sure that vibe gets across, right? That things maybe aren't misinterpreted, or that however the story goes, like we want to tell this story and keep it as true to what we originally had it. But I can, if I go in here and show some of the script, and hopefully that shows up. Make it a little bit bigger, I guess, so we can kind of see. But for this script here, I made an editor's note because as great as Sergio is, when I saw these pencils, and I'm like, damn, that's a sweet layout. Like this book, obviously, like Annabelle gets kidnapped by Kerr, who's in history. If we look up, like I'm kind of like this history nerd becoming this history nerd guy, and I love researching stuff when I'm writing stories. And since all my books really have supernatural characters in it, I kind of found this wiki page that lists like hundreds of supernatural creatures and lore and all this stuff, and I was just like blown away. So I love dragons. So I started researching dragons, found out that this dude Kerr is actually the first Sumerian dragon ever. Like in the history of the lore of dragons, Kerr is like the guy. So I was like, that's pretty badass. So let me make up a story about him, right? And in the story here, it's kind of like I just have 5 panels. So Sergio did kind of 5, but the way it works out, like, this is kind of going to be challenging to letter because I have Ice Pick speaking first, and then I have Kerr speaking, and then Adam / Ice Pick is speaking again. And that's all takes place in panel 1, So for me, it's kind of like, okay, how do we do this to where we make it work? You're going to have to like kind of play with this, but now I'm covering her stomach. So it's going to be interesting for placement on this, but when I do get in here and I start lettering, I literally just kind of do it like that. Oh. I copy and paste, and I have all the fonts and everything all set up. And there's definitely ways you can letter differently, I guess. Like some people like oval, some people say that they should be squares. And by the way, I'm an illustrator for those watching. I don't typically like a lot of, I know some letters, and it's each his own. Like it's indie world out there. We can do kind of what we want, but I'm not a fan of like having a ton of space around my letters. I feel like that almost clogs up I don't know, it just takes away from the art a little bit. So yeah. I tend to try to not do so much. And what I'll also do is, because I have all these shapes already set up, I have a few different ones over here. I love using color as well in things because it'll separate like what's going on. Yeah. And I think, I don't know if I'm going to want to do one way down here, but it's, this is the process. It takes a while, I'm sure, when you see everything come together, like it's kind of worth having. We run into that. Worth the time and effort it takes to letter. So you guys got ink. Scales is coming Monday, and then you were doing ink. How's that going?
Cool.
Yeah.
The third one is hopefully going to be out in May.
Okay.
If not May, then June, but that's like pushing it because I kind of want Mittens 3 to come out in July, like it's been the other 2 years. Yeah. It's like our summer blockbuster kind of thing.
That did really well from what I remember.
The first one is the best Kickstarter we've done. So, yeah, people like cats.
They do. Me and my wife have 2 cats, and she's like, you need to do some videos, or you need to do something where like these cats are like talking about your comics because people love cats.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know. I'm just too. I'm just not that guy that does a lot of fun, witty, clever stuff outside of comics.
Yeah. Dylan was like, he came up with an idea for like a TikTok, and I might do it when it gets like closer to promoting Mittens, but I have to make sure the cat is sitting still and he's not walking around or whatever. But he's like, yeah, you have to get like your cat Marshall to like act like you have to do a voice for him, and he's like talking.
Oh my god, about that would Mittens, be fun.
Or you're talking to him about Mittens and why he should read it. And he's actually a character in like a short comic that we're coming out with. That's a stretch goal.
Oh, your cat?
Yeah. So my cat Marshall, he's
nice.
A character that's part of this like group of cats that Mittens was a part of at one point. And you'll see more of that. It's called Oath of the Litter, and I came up with that. Sometimes I come up with world building stuff when I'm just making trading cards. So that was where that came from. And,
So you make trading cards?
Yeah, so for each Kickstarter, I like to put out one actual trading card of like the character, and it's got a bio,
Okay.
and it's kind of like an Nick Thompson that's on our platform. He does like Don't Eat Meat comic and a bunch of others like Dead Gene.
Mm-hmm.
Let's Bounce, which is a lot like Pulp Fiction, and it's probably like one of my favorite comics now, just because it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, he shared that or whatever in our Instagram group or something. I was like, ooh, that looks just like Pulp Fiction. And he's like, yeah, that's the inspiration.
That's the point, right?
Yeah. So, and he really likes mittens. But anyway, so yeah, I do like a trading card like each Kickstarter for like a new character that someone hasn't gotten yet. So if someone's actually collecting trading cards, eventually you'll
Mm-hmm.
have like every character that we have. That's
That's
like an
really cool.
Yeah, so we did Slugger on the second one. Um, he's our like pug character based off of my childhood dog, and then
Mm-hmm.
um, he has like a little like sound or whatever that he does every single time he's talking. So in the lettering, it actually says pug noises, and it's just like him snarling or something. So we added
Nice.
that. Yeah, and that's actually on a shirt that you were able to get during that last Kickstarter. It just says like asterisks pug noises. So yeah,
You bring up a good thing, like talking about Kickstarters and just some of the rewards and things like that. And I'm sure my wife's tired of hearing me talk about Kickstarters and the rewards and all the things that we do. But and it's an important factor. Is like what do we offer? Besides just a book. I mean, anyone can kind of go to a book. I mean, maybe not so much today, but you could go to a comic shop and end up with a book, right? But when you do a Kickstarter, you're pre-ordering a book, but there's also like the idea of rewards. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, what else am I getting? So you mentioned shirts and trading cards, and I did trading cards for, I think it was Ice Pick, and they were super cool. But let's see, that's Luke talking. So what other rewards do you think that are like worth the time and effort, and the money to put out there?
So I kind of shied away from clothing. Like
Okay.
I still do it, but it's not like as big as a thing that I did when we first
Mm-hmm.
started. This is a lot of
Okay.
money.
Yeah.
And like the first time, I wasn't really thinking it through. So like I actually shipped all the stuff to me, like the shirts,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't make any sense. And then we found Printify, which is what we use for our web store.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I had all the shirts, and then I had to ship them back out to like each person. So like there was a guy that lived in like Minnesota, so I had to ship
Mm-hmm.
the shirt that was really big back out to like Minnesota. And I was like, is this gonna fit in an envelope? Like,
That's funny. Yeah, shipping is definitely a thing for us. I end up having my book shipped to me, and then I basically do all my fulfillment with Kickstarter. I'm kind of curious to see if there are people that will do fulfillment, so I'm not really paying twice for shipping in a way,
there are. So there's Comics Wellspring, and they actually like you give them a spreadsheet. I haven't done this, but I know people have.
Mm-hmm.
You give them a spreadsheet of everything, and then they send the rewards to each backer, like what they got. So you don't have to
Okay.
deal with that. But their
That's not
Gemini,
bad.
yeah, their Gemini mailer shows like Comics Wellspring like on it, so it's like their logo or whatever, which is
Mm-hmm.
cool because they're like doing the work. But I don't know. I don't. I like to just have our logo on stuff. So if possible. So I do the fulfillment, and it
Okay.
takes a while. My girlfriend helps because one person can't do that.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like when you said Mitten was like your best Kickstarter, I keep track. Like I definitely back what I can and support it as much as I can. And it's one of those things where typically my Kickstarters run, I don't know, anywhere from like 50, maybe. I think the most I had was like 80 backers, and that's kind of a mix of virtual and physical backers. So I'm definitely not hitting like hundreds of backers and stuff like that. But it's I have to do it myself. Like there's just no way. I wouldn't. I like being able to sign all the books, bag and board them, make sure that they're packaged well. And to me, like even if I had 100, I think you had over 100 for Mittens. Was that?
Yeah, I just checked because I don't remember how many. It was 240.
Wow.
That's not physical, so it was probably like 150
Yeah.
or something like
Right.
that was physical. Some of them were really big because like JR, the artist, his mom bought like a retail package.
Wow, that's awesome, dude.
Like, what is she gonna do with this? And so I had to fit like 16 or 8 comics at the time. In a Gemini, and I was like, then for the second issue, she did it again, and I'm like, can you like? She isn't a store. It's cool, but I don't know what like she's gonna do with all these. You give them away.
That's so funny, dude.
I tried fitting 16 in one. I was like, oh, you can't fit 16 in one.
No.
So then I put it in a box because I actually had to get boxes from the post office. Because a new thing that we give away because of Carissa Grant was plushies.
So, that's awesome. Yeah.
So we had Mittens plushies. We didn't have the plushie done by the time the Kickstarter was like rolling around or whatever. So Travis Gibb was like, "Oh, it's not real." I was like, "I can promise you that it's real. Like it was paid for."
Yeah.
And then people got them and they were happy. So that's cool. But
plushies are a thing, dude. It's a legit thing. I thought about doing plushies and having this conversation about rewards and stuff for Kickstarters, for Annabelle and just my world of characters, right? I mean, the dragon, which I mean, the one cover that was done, Greg Watson and Gwen.
Yeah, they're like a team. They're actually they might be doing a cover for Mittens, so
oh, dude, watch out, because
if they're watching, then they'll actually start it. But
it's worth the wait. I get it. Like, and as an artist myself, like I do other art stuff besides like comics and stuff like that, but not as often. Like I was doing sketch cards for Topps for a long time, and I just got like burned out, and I'm just like, it's not worth the money. It's okay, like doing Garbage Pail Kid cards because there's still like a huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how those fans are. But Carissa does these plushies, and I'm thinking like Grego did this great cover that like took Kerr into a completely different like idea world with this cute little dragon. I'm like, dude, that is phenomenal. Like I'm creative, but I'm not on that level, and that's why you get paid the big bucks, and I am like the creator. But I never thought like I could have like plushies, and I thought like if I could figure out a way, a character, like, I don't know, like I have kind of down the road, like we talk about like what you're planning with Scales issues 2 and some of the other books and talking about like future Mittens issues. Once I get into doing Luke, then that'll be a 4-issue miniseries. And then I'm thinking about doing an omnibus for all 12 issues of all 3 characters, putting it, I mean, it would be it'd be a novel. Because like the Ice Pick definitive trade was like 160, and I put in like all this old artwork from when I was like created the character when I was like 16, 17 years old, and it looks like absolute garbage. But people love it. They love seeing terrible artwork, so whatever. Kudos. But I thought like if I did this omnibus, I could like you're talking 88 pages times 3 plus all this extra stuff, right? So you're talking like hundreds of pages, and I was gonna start doing one shots, and to me, like I think that's the evolution of where Dark Space Studios is gonna go, is doing trades and kind of one shots of stories. And it'll people for some reason gravitate towards Ice Pick. They like that character. They like that idea, the logo.
It's a really cool character.
Thanks. I appreciate that. It looked like trash early on, and I finally, got a good design around him, and I want to tell more of that story, and I will, but it's like there's some stuff in issue 3 here, and I can preview this. Like I'm just kind of like putzing around here inking, and for those out there that are watching, when I letter, not inking, I'm lettering, but I like to do a rough pass. This is a super rough pass. Like I just want to get all my words in here. I want to get all my word balloons in a general area. I need to I'm looking at like where's things fitting, where's your eye going. Typically I like to start from the top left. And you kind of go almost in a Z formation or W. You want to go left to right, left to right. And my background a little bit is I have a degree, and my degree is in design and small business. So, I went to a design school, but then I also did a bunch of small business, some video work and animation and stuff. So I'm kind of like that jack of all trades, which I think works well for being an indie publisher.
Yeah.
I make all my own Kickstarter videos. I do that all in Premiere and After Effects and stuff like that.
I used to do that, and then now I pay Josh to just do that because he makes better videos. So.
Yeah, and it's an art form. I mean, and honestly, I'd say it's kind of a subjective art form. What one person loves, someone else may hate. You know what I mean?
Well, he animated the first Mittens trailer, like it was actually animated, and I was like, I could see this as an actual like animated show. So,
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, like one
that's
day.
Really cool.
But
yeah.
But for the 3rd issue of Mittens, he's going to do a video of just issue 3 stuff, and then when we do the trade, he's gonna. He didn't really do an animated video because he didn't have time for the second one. It was more of like a character selection kind of screen kind of thing. Like, here's the characters. He's gonna animate like all 3 together and try to like transition it to kind of. Yeah, I can't wait for that.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
that sounds cool. Yeah, it's so. I mean, that's what I think about. Like when I'm trying to get like a first pass here and just placement, eye movement a little bit. I know with like when I first started talking about lettering, I like to use color. So for bad guys and stuff like that, I like to highlight their well, not bad guys, just in general. Like even when Ice Pick was Ice Pick and not what do we got here? Let's do that. When Ice Pick would talk in his costume, his stuff would be a different color, and I think that helps kind of lead the reader as well. Having things, color is important. So for me, it's like you got to have the right color. Yeah. People see color before they see anything else. So maybe it kind of bites me in the butt a little bit if something like this where maybe you see the red before you're reading what Ice Pick is saying or Adam. But it's just like super rough placement, trying to see how things go. I hate doing sound effects, and I think like in this issue I did quite a bit of sound effects. And I'm like, damn it.
You hate seeing them, or you just hate trying?
I hate making them. I hate trying to make them. Like I think they all look good at the end of the day when I do sound effects, but it's just this like back and forth of trying to get it to look like a sound effect.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. To get it to and what I mean, comics. That's a lot of. It's a lot about visual things for me. Like the story it's got to be a good story, right? But if the artwork is not on par, or if the artwork isn't like that good, then I'm probably, I'll read it. I'm like, oh, that's a good story. But, for me, there's always like that but, right? Yeah. So to me, it's got a compliment. And I love a lot of art styles. So it's like, no, I mean, I'm flexible there. It doesn't have to like fit one type of art style. But doing sound effects, like you just got to make it look like a sound effect, right? And sometimes that's way harder than it sounds, or that it seems.
Hire a letterer.
I thought about that. Like maybe I just end up doing that and hire a letterer. But then again, I'm kind of like, well, dude, I could do this myself. It's not that big of a deal. just suck it up, Buttercup, and put on your big boy pants, and you know.
Yeah,
So it's just
we learned
yeah.
like from the first ever version of Seer Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan lettered it, and it was not that good. So we
Oh,
got
dude, that sucks.
yeah. So we had like a review or two, and then people were like, "Well,
Yeah.
the story's good besides the lettering." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay."
wow.
And I'm like, "And that's why you hire a letterer, so
Yeah.
or get someone that just knows what they're doing." Um, so yeah, it was a little rough, but that's your first comic. It's not going to be perfect, so.
Dude, I mean, Ice Pick was, looking back, dude, it just felt like terrible. It really felt bad.
Well, our first Seer Chronicles, like it was shorter than it's supposed to be, and then the
Oh,
remaster version is so long because it has to be that long because we're telling
mm,
so much of a story that you
okay.
can't cut it off at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and then the artist added stuff that like nothing to do with the story at all. Like he put our logo on a bus stop. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah. Yeah. See, and so that's even a super rough sound effect, which I'm definitely, I got to rework it. I'm going to go in there and give it a little bit more life, and I use blue because it's coming from Ice Pick. And
yeah,
with this panel, like, and I like telling short stories. And what I mean, like the whole of Ice Pick, all 4 issues took place kind of like in one night. To me, I call it like the Thing syndrome, or the Thing idea from Carpenter, where that movie, The Thing, took place in like a couple days, or less time. And horror movies love to do this. They tell a story like one day. And I'm like, awesome. I love that idea. And I love movies with small casts. And that's literally kind of the foundation of all my storytelling. It's basically these 3 characters: Ice Pick, Adam Adam, Annabelle, and Luke. And it's just, I'm telling their background stories. Like, it's kind of a pseudo origin story across 4 issues, but I'm introducing new villains, and I'm introducing new powers and new ideas. So every issue is something different, but it's overall it's something that fits within the storytelling, for everything. This is the 2-page spread, dude. This looks phenomenal. Let me make this a little bit larger so we can see it. And I got the colorist. So the colorist Edwin, I don't know, we're just friends on social media. Again, he's in South America somewhere. Phenomenal colorist, and he did issue 1. I kind of, as you probably experienced too, when we talk about like, not necessarily bad experiences, but just hiccups in making our books, right? There's roadblocks or bumps in the road, that type of stuff. I kind of had this book on the shelf for almost a year and a half, with a publisher, and it kind of fizzled out, and things just kind of weren't aligning with what I wanted, how I wanted the story to go, and how long it was taking. To me, like, personally, a year and a half is just too long to make a comic. I can make them faster if I did it all myself, right? And so, again, great experience and learned a lot, but then, I kept all the art team in place. So I needed to rework some panels. The story was too long. So I had to shorten it up. And by doing so, I kind of took the original issue 1 of Annabelle had like 4 extra pages, I think 4 or 5. And I was able to kind of cut and paste and make it like the story I wanted it to be, right? And that it shortened everything up. And then so I needed some color edits, and the artist, colorist here, Edwin, he was unavailable. Like it happens to all of us, right? They end up, they're professionals. They have other stuff that they're working on. And so I had another colorist fill in, which she did a great job. She was able to kind of fill in and almost match style. So you really wouldn't even know that it's a different colorist. And then she ended up coloring issue 2 because Edwin was still working on other projects, but he was available for issue 3. And I'm like, dude, you are just knocking it out of the park with this. Like, I mean, this page is so amazing. And even there's another page here. Is it this one? Yeah. This page is another just, I think this is my favorite page. And it, 2 page spread. I love 2 page spreads. And that's how I write too. I love, at least I got to have one or two, splash pages, and you kind of think about like, how can I do this splash page? Like, does it make sense? That goes kind of like back to the 90s and stuff. But yeah, it's just this story takes place in the cave, all 4 issues for the most part. We start outside of the cave, but then again, 95% of it's in this cave, and Kerr's telling her what he did, her past, and why he got kind of banished into this cave. So it's a fun little story. And again, I'll put my link in the chat as well, or in the comment section. And we'll get this book lettered. And for me, like I'm with you, Greg. I like to have my books about 90% done, if not, 100%. So, the next week or so, I'm going to be banging out all these letters and get this done here. And we'll just kind of see how, good luck on your campaign. Hopefully that will, every campaign seems to kind of build a little bit more momentum for the next issue. You know what I mean? So it's good that we're out there and we're doing stuff. Oh yeah. So we got a couple people throwing up in chat here, which is cool. Well, in the comments, it's not showing on the live stream, which is kind of interesting.
I only see one.
Yeah. So that might be like our chat versus. Yeah. So this is kind of a new platform for me working these live streams, but yeah, Greg Bo's stuff is fantastic. And yeah, Dave Finch again. As an artist, I could go down the list. Dave Finch is definitely on the list of influential artists. His stuff on YouTube is really good too. So any inspiring artists, go check out Dave Finch on YouTube. Yeah, I agreed, Rodney. I try to bring up, even in Ice Pick, a little bit of the story with Ice Pick is. The villain in Ice Pick is Mordred, which for those that are, King Arthur fans, that obviously that story kind of portrayed that Mordred was his son. But the way that story ends up going is Mordred became the kind of the king of the ninth circle of hell. And that's where all like the worst people go, and because Mordred betrayed King Arthur, like he ended up ruling the ninth circle of hell. So yeah, I try to sprinkle in history, and then I twist it and turn it and make it into something fun and visual and something that fits within the comic format. Is that something maybe you struggle with a little bit? Trying to get something into a comic format, from script to actual comic writing, or is that just like, from your ideas? You know what I mean?
I used to. It more used to be like a storyboard, and then
okay.
Dylan's like, well, that's like 5 actions happening all at once. You can't do this. This isn't a movie. So I was like, okay, well, let's write a movie now. So yeah, I used to be really bad at that.
So you would storyboard your stuff, and then
like the original Seer Chronicles was like there's the janitor guy that dies. Spoiler. So the janitor guy, and he's in the first panel, but he's doing 3 other things while doing it. Like he's mopping the floor, he's talking, and I was like, what? But he's like, you can't do all that in a panel. I was like, yeah, I know. But I didn't write it like that. So
I'm gonna try it anyways.
So we
okay,
edit that, but yeah, it was. And then we had one artist. He does like skateboard art more, and he did the first 7 pages or something of Seer Chronicles, and nobody will see that besides us. Like it was really bad.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, because he literally he did like what the storyboard said. Like Dylan didn't see the script, and then he's like, "Oh, maybe I should like edit this." I was like, "Yeah, I think we should probably do that." So then we did that, and he's like, "Oh, this is way better now." I was like, "Yeah."
Okay. Yeah, I would say like, I mean, the first Ice Pick script, it was it was challenging in its own way. Just I did some research. Obviously I love doing research, and it was just kind of like, how do you, when you first mentioned like that's not how you do a comic script, and it was like, well, how do you do a comic script, so I had to look that up, and you find out that there's different different ways to do it. I guess there's the Marvel way. There's I tend to do a little bit more detail of a script. For instance,
Willa does a lot of detail. I start writing, and then he's like putting like all these like angles and stuff. And I'm like, the artist's gonna figure that out. You don't need to really.
Yeah,
you don't have to do that.
I
I really go with what the artist does. It's like Hector Short, or he changed for the third issue of Seer Chronicles. He like took a panel or two out, and it works better. I was like, let's go with that.
Exactly, and that's how my artist is too, Sergio. Like if he ends up, and I trust him, just to make it like visual. He's such a good visual storyteller. Even with this panel or this page, if I just take off all the letters here, you see what's happening. Like there's dialogue going on, and the dialogue is gonna expand on the visuals, but you have them tied up. You have bad guy talking, and okay, now a superhero is starting to break loose. Like, so I trust him explicitly. Like, he's just going to have a good story. He's just a good storyteller. But like, even for my scripts here, it's kind of like, I do like a lot of what inspires me when I was first writing Ice Pick was, and it still does to this day, but what kind of got me started was just watching film and TV. And, I worked on a couple independent films when I was in college, and I learned like framing, and I learned, just establishing stuff and what you should do, and kind of like some do's and don'ts. And I pull that into comic book writing. So it's kind of like medium shot, or far away shot, close up of this happening or that. And I think it makes it a little bit easier for the artist, because then it kind of helps them visualize, like, this is the story, this is where I'm at, as far as like depth of where the camera is and where I should be doing stuff. And even the 2-panel spread, like, where I put like instead of Adam's rope finally breaking, and I don't know, so he kind of added extra panels, right? But it works. So again, like just trusting the artist, and I know if I were to draw this myself, I would be more true to form. I probably would have like done exactly the same panels I had, unless I start running into like, I don't know, issues with spacing or leaving issues. I think for artists, I don't know if you've run into this, but you, as an artist, as a writer, you write out a script, but having the artwork come back to you and you're like, oh, that's too close for a person. You need more space to have the word balloon. So as a letterist, you kind of go in here and you're like, oh, I gotta make do with what the art is. So that's where I can, like, as kind of the creator, I can like add or take out words. And I do that almost like every issue. I adjust the script as I'm doing it. So it's then we'll wrap this up here. It's been fun chatting. It seems like, building a little bit of hype, and hopefully we'll have that, your campaign will launch and do great. And, everybody keep an eye out for issue 3 of Annabelle and more from Cernova, and go check out their platform if you need services, because you guys offer services. So take advantage of it. And I'll probably be doing a couple more of these in the next few weeks here up until launch, and
live on live streams for the next couple months, actually. So.
And I'm not sure, like, as a indie creator, like, what's the value here? But we'll see. It's always something interesting to kind of see the what's out there and the lay of the land, and what works, what doesn't work. I'm always willing to try different things to see what helps, because I definitely want to, I want to keep doing this. I'm sure you do too. So it's kind of a fun hobby now, but eventually we'd like to make some money, right? So, get our creations out there and have people enjoy them. But it's been fun chatting, Greg. I appreciate hanging out. Everybody take a look out for more from me, from Greg. Go back his Kickstarter tomorrow at 5 p.m. And till the next stream. All right.